we sort of played around a lot with the ads and what type of ads to use and those sorts of things, and sort of playing around with that, finding out sort of what works best for us and what sort of had the most results and those sorts of things. So one, just wanted to again share that with you. Hopefully you can, some of these things will be useful to you, and you'll sort of play around with them as well, and find out what's most for you and what has the biggest impact. So what you see on the screen right now is our page, and so it's the administration side, so you wouldn't see quite all of this if you came to visit our page, but this is some of the posts that, again, the backside of what we're doing and the posts that we have going on. And so one of the things we first started looking at is, and we sort of used the rule that about, whoops, we don't want that. About 70% of our posts are on things that we think that are interesting to us, and so that are of interest to us and those sorts of things. And then sort of less than 30% are really about our organization in general. And so by sort of having a ratio similar to that, and there's a lot of guides out there that use somewhat of that ratio, but of promoting things that are of interest to your group, are things that you find interesting, then when people come to your page, or things that you share, then you sort of can garner more traffic that way. So rather than just posting, hey, we're having this event, or hey, this is our meeting, we do some of that. We do like, here's our new group, and here's a fundraiser, and those sorts of things. But we really do try to promote and put things on our site that are of interest to us. And so the current ad we're looking at is by Americans United, and so so they probably posted this. We saw it. We thought it was interesting. So rather than share their post, we actually went and took the link, made a post for us, and so posted on our own page. And that way we're drawing people to our site rather than sending people to Americans United, which is wonderful for us to do, and we don't mind doing that. And there's sometimes when we share things, but we made sure to tag them in it so people know they can easily go back to Americans United. And so we would do that for sort of any group that we sort of participate with. We always try to tag them so they're getting the original credit, but the post resides on our page, and that alone brings people to yours. If when people, so we had 39 people share this post, and so we then those people then are being actually directed to our page, so it'll say Secular Student Alliance is where they shared it from, rather than if we shared it, it would actually go back to Americans United. Again, very nice, which is great for them. We want to bring people to our page. And so anytime, you do a post on the backside, you get to see the engagement, those sorts of things. Of course, we always look at, how many people were reached. What we really like is the engagement. So this is people who are clicking, who are commenting, who are having some sort of interaction. So we try to get that number as big as possible when we do something. So, and of course, I think as part of any good etiquette, when you have messages that are going on, doing posts, and it's always making sure that you are replying and liking messages that you like, and comments and things that you like, so you're interacting on people's page. So the same way we like engagement, we also want to make sure that we're interacting with the people who are on our page. One little sort of quick, easy thing is, so we've had 59 people like this. So if you're looking at like, how do we get more people, you can actually click on that. And so you can see who, like, here's all the people who have liked the page, and like Leo here, he doesn't like our page, so he saw it somewhere else. So I can actually invite him to like our page, and simply by clicking through. And so Alex here, same thing. Christopher, Diego, Mike. So you can see other people, like Ryan liked something else, and I invited him. He still hasn't liked our page, but he's still following us, so that's great. So that's one easy way. So these people already have an interest in your page. You can actually go through and just say, hey, I invite you to come and like our page, and that way that gets you more followers on your page. They're more likely to see your posts and those sorts of things. So that's sort of an easy way to do that. So nice little sort of easy way to sort of do that. This particular post, for us, 59 likes isn't that much. 39 shares, I like that a little bit more. So one of the things that we do is, if we do there's some posts which we are posting which we know we're going to promote and put a little bit of money to get a broader sort of audience. This one is not one that we typically did this with, but we may say, oh, hey, this is getting 39 shares. We may want to go ahead and just give this post a little boost. So anything that's doing well, that's sort of meeting those expectations. And so this is, I think, one of the easiest ways to sort of start that, is going just by doing a post of something that you've already promoted. And again, this isn't about us. It's about separation of church and state. It's something that our audience on Facebook and on social media tends to really like. And so that's something that we would go ahead then and be happy to promote and those sorts of things. And again, that gets into that 70-30 rule, 70% about stuff that you find interesting that your audience would like, rather than just always promoting about, hey, here's what's happening with us, here's what's happening with us, here's what's happening with us. So if we're doing like a fundraiser, or if we have a sign up or something like that, I'll typically do a button. In this case, the button would actually sort of bring them back to Americans United page. So on that I'm going to put no button, because I'm going to just want them to, they're more likely to click on Secular Student Alliance, which is what we sort of want them to do. And then the audience, we've already have audiences that are sort of built in, and I can show you how to do a little bit of that. But so this is where you can sort of pick the criteria of who sees it. And I know that, I think when I first started doing social media and promoting and those things, and I've also heard from other people, they go, oh, I'm going to send it to people who like my page. Well, chances are they've already seen it. So that may not be, we're very rare that we would do something to people who like our page. Exception to that would be like our conference, our summer conference that is geared towards students. We would do that if we're doing it, like in the beginning, an ad for get students to sign up. We may do one ad or a couple ads that say, for people who like our page, and that way we know they're seeing it. So if we weren't up in their feed, or we wanted to make sure that they saw it, we would do something there. The next likelihood is, people who like our page and their friends. And so if something's super adjacent to us, then we would say, oh, also send it to their friends, because that's doing a great way to, it uses, so if, Emily liked our page, and then this would actually go to all of Emily's friends who may not know about us. And so it's a way to sort of get a broader audience. And it's very untargeted. We don't know that, Emily may have lots of religious people who might not be fully on board with what our particular website or our particular Facebook page was interested, but you never know. So we look at what our intent is of the ad, what sort of audience we're trying to market to, and those sorts of things. I think we are a national organization, so this doesn't sort of, people in our local area doesn't work for us as much. But if you were, the Ethical Union in DC, or in Salt Lake City, or in St. Louis, or people in your local area, may be actually a fairly good thing for you to reach out to. So it's gonna be a little bit more broad aspect, but that's another way to do that. And you can also do custom audiences. And so we actually have, I'll pull up, we actually have a lot of custom audiences already built in. So we do a lot of, we've been doing a campaign for historically Black colleges. So we actually have, so we went through and said, hey, we want college-age students. So we put that in those criteria. So we want people 17 through 26 years of age. And then we actually went and added in some of the largest or most popular historically Black colleges. And then we said, we want all of those people, but that would have been a lot of people who would have nothing of interest with us. So we said, so we want someone at Tuskegee University who then also has an interest in one of these sorts of things. So it's in humanism, or secular humanism, or our organization, or free thought, or the American Humanist Association. So we can so they've got to match both of these criterias when they're pulling this through. And so that's just one in particular. You can see, we have the secular community for us, which is, a lot of people with, Center for Inquiry, Secular Coalition of America, American Atheist, So American Humanist Association. So, Freedom from Religion Foundation. So we've sort of narrowed that down. But for that, we have a lot wider audience as far as who we're interested to. So you can tell we've done some things for particular audiences in different states, high school students. Florida, we were doing a lot of promotion for Florida and California of scholarships. We know that the LGBT community has a large population that is non-religious. So when we have something of that, we will go ahead and do targeted, have a post that deals on LGBT issues and LGBT rights. And if it's going well, we'll go ahead and give it a nice little boost and promote. And so we pick things, It Gets Better Project, Transgender Law Center, Out Magazine. So GLAAD. The Advocate, which LGBT community in general. So we pick a lot of those sorts of things and that sort of broadens the reach for us in that community. So we do secular youth, which again, a lot of secular sort of things, but we're looking at sort of a very young age on that, and that's what we're looking for when we sort of move that forward. So this is secular organizations, so literally other different organizations within the secular community. And so we can narrow those down. So easy way, if you want to create your own audience, you give it a name. We don't have anything where we pick the gender. You can. You set the age range that you're interested in. You can do locations, so you can create your own custom audience and say that I'm just going to do Los Angeles. If I can spell, there we go. And so that'll pull that up, and it tells me there's right now there's 8,100,000 people too, and that's fine. So we can start saying, well, we want anyone who likes, and I have no idea what this is going to come up with, the Secular Student Alliance in Los Angeles. So it goes, oh, there's 1,000 people. So we know that's too small. So one, we can keep adding. So we just keep typing in things. You can also go to suggestions, and Facebook will say, hey, here's some things that you may want to consider. So we can do Richard Dawkins, and we can do humanism, and we can do, let me come down with this. So it allows us to sort of pick other things. So here's the Trevor Project if it's, it has to do with a little bit of LGBT issues. So it'll give us things that we can pick. And all the time, it's at the bottom telling us how many people we are advertising to. So it'll tell you your audience is defined. So it gives you that sort of green denotion that they're saying this is a good. So if it's under, there are times when it'll be in red and it's saying, hey, this is too small, you need to add people. And so that's a great way and it'll even tell you if it gets large, you're advertising to a lot of people. I always like it as small as I can get, just so I know I'm hitting the people that I think would be most interested. So that's a weird sort of a little thing there. But so I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to create that new audience. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick, for this one, I'm going to pick the secular community. So it automatically pumps that up. I already have that defined in there. And we go down a little bit more. Automatic placement, I always leave it like that. Facebook will go through and figure what's best for us based on who's getting the most interactions. And with those things, the daily budget, I always say you can do this with a little bit of money. $10 is like rarely we would, that's the max we would typically do, and that's really looking to promote something. So I typically stick about the $5 level. It says your minimum budget must be $1 a day. So I come down. So this tells me about how many people a day will reach, which is fine. And then I think duration for a day is always an issue. So we will rarely use one day. So what Facebook does is they sort of have a matrix, there's an algorithm in the background. And so for your one day, it just sort of blasts everyone out who meets those criteria. And so it doesn't really have a lot of data then to help refine that. In reading information about social media, what we typically do is we look at about 3 days out. So if I would go, about 3 days, so that's sort of the minimum we would do. We typically are in the 3 to 5 day range is sort of our sweet spot, which we found to be the most effective. So they say first day is Facebook just blasts the information out. Day 2, it starts collecting information on like, oh, here's the demographics of people who are actually clicking on this or viewing this and those sorts of things. So the little bit longer you leave it on, the better Facebook gets at sending it to people who it thinks are going to be most interested. And you can see just by sort of changing that, our number of people per day to view it actually went up. Every once in a while we'll do 7 days, but to me that by the time that information is pretty old. So we are usually about 3 days. If it's something we want to promote a little longer, it's 5 days. But you should be sort of turning over information. This is something from, the post we're looking at is American United. So it's a little less hot topic as far as what's taking place. So it's a little less sort of important that way. Then it gets down to who's paying. You'll have already put this information in, and that's me personally. I don't want to pay for it. So we'll say Secular Student Alliance is going to pay for it, and you can see they actually have on here now, and this is a lot of since their new revisions. It tells you who it was paid for. So this is paid by Secular Student Alliance, and if we switch it the other way around, you can see it actually says. It should change. It should have said it's paid for by Kevin Bolling, which I don't want people knowing that. So change it to Secular Student Alliance. And then that's the credit card that we have on file, and that's part of the process when you first are setting up to do promotions. You sort of have to go through that process and put what's in there. The other thing that you have to do, which I can't show you because I've already done it, is they consider us, I'm almost, anyone else that they're going to consider, it's going to be part of, they consider you having a national influence. And so they're going to make you go through this process of verifying yourself, which is great. Just know that that could be about a month-long process. So they start you on the computer, you answer questions, and it's personal questions about you. So when I did it, I had and it required me to upload a copy of my driver's license and a copy of my passport. So they want to know that you are who you are, which is great. They're trying to to make sure that the posts that are going up and who's paying for posts are credible, which I fully support. The other thing that you also had to do is once they do those initial verifications, and that's sort of information that's done online, then they actually require you to put in a physical address that they can mail to. And so I actually had to put my home address. They mailed me a postcard in the mail, and on there was a code that I went to. They said, go to this website, log in this code, and that was sort of the final verification step. So it took several weeks for me to actually go through all those processes, and I was already doing we were already set up in the account. We were already doing promoted posts. And so they put these new guidelines in, which I enjoy. I like that they're checking those sorts of things. Just know that it's going to take you at least 3 weeks to get through that entire process. And Emily has said, if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to reach out for her and she can sort of help you through that. So with this, we went through, we decided we didn't want a button because then it goes to the article, and I'd rather them come to us. So in this case, we chose an audience. So here we chose the secular community, which we had already defined. We set our budget. So we looked at 3 days because that's sort of the 3 to 5 days is sort of that sweet spot in advertising. And we defined the account, and so really, it's left to boost. You can also look, how is this going to look? On different places. So this is when this sort of gives you a little bit of a preview when people see it on the desktop, on mobile services of what it looks like. So with this, you also can advertise on Instagram, which I think is great. There's a lot of young people on Instagram, those sorts of things. So it shows you on Instagram stories what it looks like, and it shows you on what it's going to look like on Instagram. And so the nice thing is Facebook will, if your ad is going really well on Facebook, it'll keep promoting towards Facebook. Emily and I were just talking ahead of time, and she was looking on the backside of some of her statistics, and she was like, oh, it's really going towards Instagram, which means more people on Instagram are looking at it. So Facebook sort of monitors all of that and does that for you. You don't have to worry about it. So that's the one thing we like about advertising on Facebook, and between platforms, we don't have to worry about that. So then you just hit boost, and we can actually do that. Well, no reason not to promote that ad. It was doing well on the shares, so we'll give it a couple days. So they submit it. I'm in the hotel, so my internet's a little slow here. So it does go into review, which is fine. Your account will get a thing saying, hey, your ad is approved or it's not, with those sorts of things. So yeah, and it's off and running. The other thing that you can do is if you go to, you can look at, so that's if we've got something we've already posted, and we know we want to post it, then we do that. I'm trying to scroll what's something that I have boosted recently. You can tell I haven't done a lot recently. But it'll go through and show you sort of how you're engaging as you're going along, so you can sort of see those sorts of things. If you want to promote something, again, this is sort of from the, you do have different options. So we did boost a post, which you can do. If you have an event going on, you can boost an event in much the same way. You can send a message. It's not something that we've really done. We really don't do, you can promote your page if you're looking to get more just people liking your page. That's a way to do it as well. And then the one we use a lot is to get more website visitors. So again, this is sort of the backside. If we're doing something where we're looking at new organizations that are starting, we want to get new chapters or new members. So we'll actually go through, rather than this page, we would actually do a direct link right to our membership page. So I do, so secular students, I could have pulled this up ahead of time. So we'll do chapters. So this is a way for students to find out what our chapters are. So just go right to find a chapter page. Wow, we're going slow. Sorry about this. Going to I guess because we're running the video off this computer as well. So actually no, I would just go ahead and pick up the website right there. But I'm not going to do that because that's taking forever. And then I could just go paste it in this, and it would actually change the image to what we're doing. You can do a single image, a video carousel, which just shows, you can sort of scroll through videos. If you've seen sort of stores on Facebook that you can see one and then you see a bunch of different images, that's the carousel. You usually want square-shaped images for those, or a little slideshow, and that sort of makes its own little video, those sorts of things. So this isn't a typical image we'd use, because it has lots of text on it. So Facebook doesn't like to use, they prefer images with under 20% text. And so if you use an image that has a lot of text on it, they'll actually say, hey, we're not going to promote this for you. If you're sort of a little bit above that 20% text ratio that they look at, they'll say, hey, this, it's not going to do as well. So they don't want a bunch of text on there. And you can also see that this sort of looks funny. You can go through and crop the image. So I can say, hey, let's move that over. So if the image is a little too big, and it'll actually come through. And again, we're sort of fighting with slow internet because I'm hosting that thing. But it will actually adjust it. It's not doing it on this case. So you can also browse your library and sort of look at pictures that you've used before to go ahead and pull up. And so here's some things. These are some of our current images and those sorts of things. So we can use this. And so this is one we typically use. The fun thing about this image is sort of a lot of our students identify sort of with the atheist word, which for your organizations may not be the thing that you would choose to do this with, but if we're sort of looking with something, The fun thing about this, even though it's all text, because it's turned slightly, Facebook doesn't see it as text. So for some reason it bypasses their filters, and so they don't see the text on there at all, which we sort of love. And you can sort of see what the ad will look like. So here's what it's going to look like on there, and then you can sort of Instagram, show up in Messenger and those sorts of things. So so what we would typically do is and this is all, to me, is all sort of marketing. So talking about this, we would do like sort of very action oriented words. So find a chapter near you. Oops, and then it'll tell you if you spell it wrong. So we change it to be a little more action oriented, and then we come up and that's a little, it pulls it right from our website, so it doesn't sound great, and we'd say growing number of non-religious, and I cannot type today. So you can put whatever it is. So that's not the best little line. So, join the growing number of non-secular students on campus, something like that. So again, this is marketing. So you want to, sort of pull it out and figure out, hey, what do we really want to accomplish, and those sorts of things. So that changes the text on your ad. You are limited. So the little headline, you've got 25 characters, and the text, you've got 90. So you got to say it pretty concise. On here, of course, I would definitely use the button. So for us, we want to learn more. Donate is a great one. So those are, contact us. So whatever you want to do is what's the best button. And then again, it comes up with, you choose your marketing. So again, you'd pick sort of who you wanted to market it to. So we, clearly with this, we're not going to want to do people who like our page or their friends. So we would probably go through and do like secular youth. I don't want to create a new one. And close it out. So we would, we have sort of young people in the audience already. So, and this, if we want to target HBCUs, so we've already got that in. And this is one we've sort of created already, and we're like, that's a little older. So we could actually go through, edit that ad and say, just give us college-aged folks. So, because that's our primary target. So we're going to say that they're up and hit the 24 range. And then again, it'll go through, and we've got our little green saying that's a good reach. So we knew we're about 250,000 people across the United States. So we save that. If you have other ads that are using that, it will go ahead and change those. We typically don't have that many in. And then you'd say, go down and find Secular Student Alliance, and then you have your budget in there. And so you go ahead and promote that ad. So that's the way. And what this does is this actually doesn't show up on your feed. So so your regular timeline. So where if you do a post, and this is something that we're doing, this ad doesn't show up on your feed. It actually it finds people who meets those criteria and just pops up on theirs. So, for our page showing that, hey, join the Secular Student Alliance, people are like, I'm already a member. I already like your page. So we wouldn't want to do something like this where it shows up on our feed. We want it, so this all happens in the background and showing up on other people's feeds. So I'm not going to promote that because I literally just threw that together for these purposes. So those are really sort of one is the sort of promoting a post that you've already done, and the other is creating a post that's not going to show up on your feed, but that is going to show up on other people's feeds that you sort of have targeted, and those sorts of things. So those are the two main ways that we do ads. And we've really seen, in using those methods, we've seen a lot of good, for us, impact on, people interacting depending on what we're doing. So last fall, we really looked at, okay, we want to grow the number of chapters. that we're using. So one, we started promoting, we were intentionally posting posts that were talking about young people and sort of secular issues. So we know that our people like separation of church and state issues. They like some of the current things that were happening with politics. They like environmental issues, LGBT issues, and how they relate to separation of church and state. So we were doing posts of that. So this is interest areas. So not really having to do anything with our organization. So we would post those and we go ahead and promote them right when we post them. We would choose an audience that was secular youth. And so we did that out across the United States and looking at, so anyone who was interested in those sorts of things. And then in addition to that, so we would have about one of those going at a time on different sort of topics. And so then we could look at saying, hey, how is this doing? How are people interacting with this? And at the same time, we were doing a promoted post, so that did not appear on our page, but sending people to our website. And we did things, for us, it was things like atheist, because that's a young people tend to identify with that term a lot, not going to be something that perhaps goes with the ethical union. We were also doing little ads, doubts about your faith. So, things like that we knew would be easy things for people to see and automatically sort of work with right away. So this is the ad that we sort of posted right at the beginning of the webinar, and you can see it's still in review, but it'll actually show me how many people it reached off the promotion and what the results are. And then even allows me to go in and see details behind that. So when we look at sort of the ad center and how our posts were doing, we've spent almost $10 in the last, on 2 ads in the last 60 days. So it's the end of our semester. Clearly, we haven't been doing a lot of promoted posts, but it will go through and sort of show you what's sort of going on. So we have one that's active right now. This is about our conference. So it actually just started. And it allows me to go in and see the results of what's happening. So 14 people have clicked on it. Tells me clicked, comments, shares. It allows me to go and add more money. Not something I'm going to do, but it also goes and lets me see who the people are that are sort of interacting with this. And so this was sort of a broad range, so people 18 to 65, so in the United States, who meet certain criteria. So I know a lot of people are saying, oh, young people aren't on Facebook. And so again, we did this at people who were 18, so we didn't even get into this category at all. But we also know that's a large. You can see that some of the largest groups are young people in this range who are the ones who are clicking on this. So for us, that really works out. It also tells me, so most of this was all on mobile devices, so and on desktop. So yeah, 95% of the people are looking on this on their mobile, and that sort of makes sense because it's a younger demographic, and that's probably where they're doing it. So it also breaks down and shows you where people are looking at it. So it's good to know for us: California, Texas, Missouri, Ohio, Illinois. If you're doing it locally, it'll break it down a little bit differently. So again, we sort of do most of our sort of things nationally, except for how we're doing them. And then, yeah, they always allow you to sort of, add budget and those sorts of things if you want to sort of keep it going. So if we do a series of ads that we're looking for something particular, we'll actually go through and compare them. So look, how are these doing? So this was a one, so clearly this is Ask an Atheist Day, so that's specifically for this. And they even told us, hey, your ad may not run because it's a high proportion of text. So so it is. So but what it's doing is it's not going to get as much play. Facebook will intentionally sort of hold it back because they don't like a bunch of text. So, but it's getting things, comments, clicks, shares, those sorts of things. So if it had less text, we'd probably see a higher ratio of those sorts of things. But they will allow you to go through and see how you're doing. And I said, typically we're doing about $5. So in the ads that we're doing, this is one that we started and quickly deleted, and then we started up again. So yeah, so you get a chance to see how those things, how your ads are doing. And again, you can go in and sort of view the results, sort of pull that up, and tells you sort of how you're doing, how you're being effective, and those sorts of things. So when we do a series, we'll go through and look at that. Again, we like engagement, so people that are clicking, commenting, somehow engaging with those with you in doing that. And so as our ads are running, we're also monitoring those and looking at saying, okay, comment if people are asking questions, we're answering those questions. If people do posts that we like, we're going ahead and liking those. And since you're promoting it, you're also then sharing it with an audience that may not be used to you and may not like your message. So we go through, and if there's someone does promote something, that we try not to censor our comments as little as possible. But if something is obviously provocative, language, or that someone's just going on to cause trouble, we'll actually go through, and we typically don't delete. We'll go and actually hide that comment so that most people won't see it, and that tends to calm down any sort of ongoing conversation that's taking away from the message that you want to be out there. We don't do that very often, but if there's something that is inflammatory and that's really taking away from what we're doing, we will go ahead and hide a post. So that person can still see it, friends of that person can still see it, but other people can't. And that's just a way for us to help manage those sorts of things. So that's a good part of the background. So we did the difference between posting and creating a post that doesn't appear on the timeline, how to create an audience. The other thing I did want to show is, that's just, again, this is sort of looking at the background. So there's some, of how people are interacting. We sort of already showed you that a little bit. The other thing that you can do, and so if you want to really get into creating audiences, and so I think Facebook does have a good tool, and you can see, we have one that's related to science, and you can see, this is one that's in our system, and there's 8 million people, 8 million people that follow that. So the environment, higher education, pickup states we're trying to hit all 50 states, and so we looked at creating, okay, who are sort of people who would like us in those states that we're looking at, and that's 31 or is just over 300,000 people. So that's a harder, it's a more focused group and those sorts of things. So the other thing that we have is our student leaders. So, and clearly we have the Secular Student Alliance. So we actually went through, and so this is a custom audience you can see here. So we actually created an audience, and you can go to create an audience. So we did custom audience, and this allows you. They've actually upgraded this a lot. It used to be one of your only options was to upload emails, but I went back and I'm gonna have to play with this a little more, because they actually give you lots of different options now. So website traffic, so we could pull people who have gone to our website or any particular website. So it's got to be one that because they're requiring a pixel on there. So it's one that you have access to. Customer file, that's what we typically do. And this is, so for our student leaders, we actually took our student leaders, we know their email addresses. So we uploaded a file into Facebook and said, yes, make us an audience that's our student leaders. And so Facebook already knows their email address. We know their email addresses. You can see we upload that. Facebook pulls all that information, and then they destroy that file. So, so it's not like you're leaving it there. You're just sharing this between Facebook and you. Facebook already has this information. So privacy, we don't consider it a privacy issue, and then that file gets destroyed. So the other thing you do is people who like your page, who follow and interact with your page, and then events and those sorts of things. So there's actually some interesting sort of things that you can do. So where we have student leaders, you could do your members. And so you could say, I want to create a customer file, and you would actually upload the email addresses of all of your membership, and you would have a specific thing to do. So if there's something that you really wanted to get out to your members, you could do it on Facebook, advertise it just towards them, and the likelihood of it popping up on their page and seeing it would be great. So if you're doing board of director elections or this great event you want everyone to know about, easy way to get it out to them. The other thing that you can do, and to be honest, we don't use that option very often. What we do is we said you have to put in a custom audience, and so that's what we did. So there's fewer than 1,000 people there. So because it was just our current student presidents, so we're getting super, super specific. So once we did that, though, we said, hey, so we did a custom audience, then we did a lookalike audience. And so we took our people who like the Secular Student Alliance. So we said, then we did a lookalike audience, and we said, give us, people 1%, so 1 to 2% of the population who this would be. So, and they look in, that's 2 million people are fall in that category. And then so you have a option. So there's 1%, and then 1 to 2%, and then 2 to 5%. And so these are people who typically don't like your page, but have and Facebook is doing all this in the background, so I have no clue who those people are. But Facebook says, hey, these are people who would probably like you. So 1%, 1 to 1%, 1 to 2%, and 2 to 5%. So we do a lot of advertising for that when we're looking at trying to grow the number of people who like us, trying to when we're looking at donors, when we're looking at donations, we're looking at trying to just expand our message and outreach and those sorts of things. So you can do that with any audience. So that's a great way to sort of make it very specific. You're reaching people that Facebook looks at all the demographics, says, yep, these are people who would be most like your group. Now, if and I know, I'll pick on American Humanist organization. So if they were like, yes, give us a lookalike, it's going to give their membership, and their membership is of an older age set and is predominantly Caucasian, and is those sort of criteria. If they were looking at, well, we've got a lot of those people, we want people who are a little bit younger, and we want a little more diverse organization, then they could actually, when you do sort of create the audience, you could do, like, we have liberal college students, because we know that a lot of people who follow us, our students, are liberal. So we went through and put information in there on more liberal students, because that's, we know that that's a big demographic of ours. So you can go in through and do that as well. So however you want to look at your different audience, and this is when you get sort of creative. Who are new people we can outreach to? Who are people who may not feel welcome and included? Let's go ahead and set up an audience for those sorts of people that we'd like attending. So then what you want to do is, when you do a post, you want to match that up. So if you have a post, if you're looking at getting younger people and new people, and you do a post that shows all, the picture in it happens to be of a lot of older people, not a great match in what your image and your story are with the audience that you're sending it to. So that's in the marketing about that, as sort of being specific in who you want to send to and those sorts of things. So I think that's a little bit into the custom audience. Once you really get into that, it's fairly easy to do, but it also really allows you to get specific in your audience and being able to outreach to new people. So I'll stop talking a little bit now. If we have any questions, I can go back to anything. If there's anything specific you want to see, I'm happy. Like I told Emily, I'm happy to show you the background of anything that we do. It's not secret. Of how we look at sort of things on the backside of our page. So we're happy to do those sorts of things.
This is Marnie Glazer talking. Can you hear me?
I can. Marnie, how's it doing?
Oh, fine, thank you. You're answering a lot of questions. Unfortunately, in the middle, my computer went dead, but I do have some questions that I think you didn't cover, and that is banners. Well, first of all, let me go to events.
Okay.
When do you want to make something into an event rather than a post and then boost it? I mean, what is the advantage of an event? And then how do you make those banners so you don't have to just keep trying to get something into the right shape and size?
Sure. So Facebook, let's see, page. So let's start with events. So we typically don't do a lot of events, simply because for our national group, But that's more of our local chapters. So that actually may be better for you when you are, so anytime you were doing an event, so if you had a speaker coming in, I would create an event for it. If you like, we have for us, we have our conference. So clearly we did that's a big event for us. So we created an event for that. One, you can market. This is not like, again, tons of text. Facebook isn't, if we promoted this, Facebook isn't going to really give that a bunch of push because it's got a bunch of text. That's a beginning graphic. We're coming up with another one. We're not super happy with that one. That was just sort of our first one out. But what it does is it allows people, one, they can share it. So like Ryan is the one on our staff who created this. I just clicked it that I was interested in. That's okay. So Ryan invited me. So I can go ahead. So Ryan could share it with a bunch of people. And then the nice thing about this is, so if Ryan created this page and he went through and said, oh, let me share this. And so he said, I can invite my friends. So you can actually go through your friends. So now you're seeing, here's my friends, my husband, my parents, my brother. So you can go through and my mom. So I can I can go through and invite my mom to this. So yeah. So I can invite my husband to this. I can invite my dad to this. So you can go through and pick. So this allows you to go through. And so here's people with the Secular Student Alliance, probably more of an appropriate group. So I can say, invite everyone to the Secular Student Alliance. And it would go ahead and send them an invitation. I'm not going to do that because my parents aren't coming. So and this would send them like, hey, Kevin's invited you to this event. So you can set it up so every member of your group can just go and invite their friends. So that's a great way to get the information out. Get the information out. So that's a wonderful way to do it. If you have tickets, so like this is our ticket page. So you can link the tickets in there. It shows where it is. And then discussion part. So that's the about is just sort of the basics of it, who's coming, those sorts of things. And then the discussion part, you can go through and keep promoting stuff. So, and it would show, if we had who our headline speaker was, we'd do a post for that, and it would actually show up on everyone's feeds who is interested or who's been invited or who's already liked the event. So it's sort of a concentrated way to communicate with people as well.
Okay, let me ask you this. Initially, is it that between a post and an event, they go initially to the same group of people, but it's what they do with it afterwards in terms of inviting and interested and who's going? That's the thing that distinguishes it, really?
On a typical post, so yes, they would both go to your timeline. Once you hit, share it, it'd both go to your timeline and it would show up on your feed, and then people who liked your page would see it. So that's all the same. An event differs in that you can put sort of, it puts the time in, you put the location in. So if someone says, yes, I'm going to go to this, it actually shows up on their feed. They can click on it, get directions right to it. And then it also allows you, so we can go through, and if you want tickets, you just click on that link and it takes you to our event page where you can buy your tickets and those sorts of things. So it's going to offer you a lot more options for managing an event. And then, yeah, it gives you this, well, someone can go through, and if you put a post, they can share your post. This actually, same thing you can do here, I could share it and it would go to my feed, my personal feed, just the way a post would. But the invite feature is also a nice additive of really helping get that word out of doing that. So, and then through the discussion sort of part, so you have the about, which is sort of your general information. The discussion allows you to keep posting things. So, hey, here's our headliner. It's registration's closing out in a week. It sort of keeps it all in one place for you, so someone can sit there and scroll and see all the different posts you've done. So we did a webinar on how to fundraise to get to the conference for students, because clearly that's an issue. So that was put in here as well. Here we have registration open. So it keeps a running tally of all the posts you did that are directly with this event.
Okay,
So
and the banner, how do you make the banner?
sure. So the banner could be your logo, your image, those sorts of things, and
I mean,
if,
sizing it.
oh, sure. Yeah, that's
Sure.
always fun. So anything that you're interested in doing, you can actually just go to a Google search and say, what size for Facebook? So, cover photo, so event photo.
Okay.
Um, and so then they're going to give you pixels. So what we tip, if you don't know pixels and those sorts of things, and if you have an image, you go, okay, it's going to be about. They'll show you a little picture, so
Right.
you can just get the general idea. And if you're not a graphic artist and if you can make it the exact pixels, great. That's the easiest way to do it. If not, the easiest thing to do is like, okay, that's about the size they're looking for. And find an image, use an image. They'll either stretch it for you a little bit or they're going to crop it for you a little bit to make it so it sort of fits. So
Okay.
that gives you an idea. So, and unfortunately they change those all the time. So yeah, once a year we have to go through and change sort of our standard things because they've sort of changed it. So they keep you on your toes. So yeah, the easiest thing to do is just Google it. What size do I need for an event? What size do I need for the cover? What size do I need for, those sorts of things, and they'll show you.
Okay, thanks.
Does that help?
Yep.
Okay.
This is Emily. I'll chime in too. There is a link that I'll put into the chats that has a lot of the specs for different social media and like the different aspects, the profile, the cover, ads. I haven't checked to see if that link is updated. Like if, as Kevin mentioned, they sometimes adjust as they roll out new versions. Like I know Twitter, for example, is planning to roll out a new version, so that may affect the specs. But as I find out other guides to that, I'll make sure to share it with our people. And also about the events, one of the good things about Facebook events is that kind of like how you would add an event to your calendar, Facebook will recommend events, or if you've clicked, you're interested or you're going, it'll remind you. It'll show up in your events list. So especially for a big speaker, maybe a big fundraiser, a partner, like an event you're partnering with other people on, those are good ways to make sure it stays in people's minds. And remember that you can add other pages events to your page. So for example, the local SSA groups can all add the national conference event to their page, so it shows up as a listing. Ethical societies can all add the AU assembly to your event. There may be events where you partner with people, so you would not only be adding the event to your page, but you'd have some editing permissions too, so you can make sure that people see, for example, that your local SSA group is hosting a speaker and you're helping out with it. So then maybe you want to make additional posts to kind of support their efforts of promoting that event.
Thank you.
So other people can chime in with questions. I do, just to get some more information rolling, want to address, Kevin, you mentioned a couple of times like we do this, and I think it'd be great for people to get an idea of how you do run the admin kind of like staff end, since you do have a social media person, but you have other staff people with similar permissions and similar and like ideas to add. So do you want to talk about like how you did figure out how to get content and ideas to the admins, or who posts directly?
Sure. So you can set up. I was like, where is that? You can determine who can share on your page and who doesn't. So you probably don't want your entire group So we have so Ryan, who is our campus organizing manager, myself as the ED, and then we have someone who looks specifically at social media and does that, sort of does that on a daily basis. So the three of us are the ones who can go on the page and post. I was trying to, I'm not sure where that is. Yeah. So the page is owned by, and then we have people who can go on there. So yeah, Ryan, Kaylee. So you can edit that down. So I'm the admin, so that means I can add people, take people away, and then the other people are editors, so they can go ahead and post. And you can do a variety of roles, but those are really the two ones. And basically what we do is, for most things, if we're interested in having something go to our social media, Louise is the one who does our social media, so we send things to her. So she can look at scheduling them, and when if something's it's breaking now, we try to get it out right away. She does that. And then things can be scheduled so that they can go whenever. Let me actually go back. So that's how we do it, and that's what you sort of have to develop the system. You may have one person that does that all, and if your people are interested, they go ahead and send that to them. Again, this is our admin side. You can see these are things that we have recently done, and these are things we have in drafts. So these are things that Louise probably started, and then they've Gay Straight Alliance at McCormick, high school. There's something about me. So these are things she's thinking of, and so she can put them in here, set something up, and then she can choose. She can go through and say, "Hey, go ahead and schedule this." Let's see if we can. So we can edit it, and then we can publish or schedule. And so the nice thing about, publish would go right away. Schedule, you can go ahead and say, oh, this is about right now. And so I'm going to say, we want this to go on the 9th, and we want it the 9th. And, we want it to go we can use that time. And we hit schedule, and Facebook will automatically post it for us. We don't even have to go through there and worry about it. I'm hit cancel because I'm not going to mess with Louise's stuff in the back. We try to look at, for Facebook, we try to look at posting at least twice a day. If we've got a lot going on, maybe we'll do 3. So once a day is fine in doing that sort of thing, but you sort of want general of information going up. On Twitter, we probably look at posting for us, and again, we have a program in the background that helps us automatically send them out. We probably post once or twice an hour. So your average Facebook post will last like 2 hours, 3 hours. Your average tweet lasts about 5 minutes. On Instagram, we probably post once a day. So you can also arrange. Oops, I'm getting lots of fun stuff. You can also arrange it to where the stuff that you post in Facebook automatically post in Instagram. That's not something that we typically do. We go through and manage each of the platforms. Those are the main 3 that we're on. We do them manually just because we think it looks better and we get better results that way. So we don't do a lot of cross-posting between those things. Some people do, and they make it work, and that works for them. We've just found for us that we'd rather just go ahead and do them separately. That's just about general about how often we post as well. Other questions?
If no one else has another question, I can ask another one.
Go ahead.
Okay. Going back to the banners.
Yeah.
A problem I have is if we have a speaker and I want to have a picture of the person in the banner, normally you get like a cross section of their mouth or something.
Right.
What is the way to deal with that, to have the picture of the person and their name next to them or something like that?
You'd have to go into some editing program to where you could create a banner, to do that. So like with the one that we currently have up, we use InDesign. There's paint programs you can use. There's some free programs that you can use. But and so we actually, like, the little swoosh in the background was one image that we took, put in the background. We added the text on top of it, and then we dropped our logo in. So where the text is, you could put the picture of the person, have a little bit of text about them, and then you want your sort of logo and those sorts of things. So that's just in a program that allows you to go ahead and do a little bit of that creation on before you bring it into the program.
So you could have that much text on it, that this doesn't have the 20% rule to it?
For this doesn't. This is just this is the image.
The cover photo.
The cover photo, right.
Yeah.
So if you did the event photo, so again, not the best example of an event photo. So you do it the same way, and so this, the logo was separate, the text was separate, the image was separate. We brought those in, put them together. So if we were for posting it, they don't really care. So, but if you're going to promote it, that's where sort of the change takes place. So anything that's promoted, you're paying money to get more people to see it. Facebook likes under 20% text. So anything and they'll give you a little bit of margin over it, and they'll say, okay, we'll do it, but we're not going to put it out there as much. And then at a certain point, they just go, no, we're not going to do it at all. So like this, they would say, no, we're not going to promote that for you. It's way too much text, and it's not cute. I would say don't promote it because it's not cute. They would say don't promote it because it's way too much text. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and the nice thing about events is, another way, if you don't want to pay to do it, is have all of your members go, hey, pull up the event, go to your event and go through and say, invite your friends. So and that's where you actually go through and, pick people to send it to. So and that's a little bit more personal way to go ahead and do that outreach.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So, yeah.
So I don't see any other questions in the chat. I guess we will wrap this up. Again, I will provide the recording to people both on and off this call so everyone can learn from it. And if you have more questions, even if there's silly things like where's the button for this, feel free to ask. There's a lot of exploration going on with Facebook and a lot of changes as they try to make it more user-friendly and easier to connect with more people. And thank you again, Kevin, for spending some time with us.
No problem. I just, wish everyone the best of luck and just keep playing with it. So it's, find out what works for you.
Great.
Thanks.